Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome, everyone. Every second Wednesday, we get together with our friends from Books Forward who are celebrating 25 years this year. It's awesome. And we get to chat with different authors that they represent. And I'm so excited to have Barbara Boyle join us today. She's joining us to talk about her new memoir that is out now, came out yesterday, February 11th, 2025, in case you're listening to this next year. It's called Pinch Me, Waking Up in a 300-Year-Old Italian Farmhouse. And this is really true. Barbara's got this incredible, busy career in the world of advertising. She's traveled all over the place, but somehow found herself saying, let's renovate a 300-year-old stone barn. I mean, this is amazing. So, welcome, Barbara. How are you?
What was I thinking, right?
No, come on. It's good stuff, though. Like,
No,
come on.
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it does sound a little crazy even when I'm hearing you talking, going, she must be out of her mind. But it was the best thing I've ever done, my husband and I together, and it's a dream come true, really.
I love the title Pinch Me because I was reading the beginning of, I'm not done with it, where you're talking about ravioli and you're sitting in that restaurant, they're all making ravioli. Like you're in this real traditional setting, like real, and everyone's speaking different, Italian. I can't speak a word of it, but um I did look up. It's Piedemonte, right?
It's in
You
English,
gotta say
we would say Piedmont with a D, but
yeah,
they don't have the D. They call it Piemonte, which means foot of the mountain.
Piemonte. Okay, okay. So I
Okay.
gotta get it. I practiced, but I messed up. It's like as soon as you're done
You
practicing, it's
can't mess
out,
up. It's fine.
you know.
Italian give you, I forget, it doesn't matter. Piemonte, Piedmont, whatever. But what was cool about that uh, ravioli session that I was able to witness is it's kind of almost sacred where we are. But what they're making is pleen, which are these little raviolis that
Hmm.
you have to pinch them and they curl up, and they're called pleen for pinch in the dialect. So that's why
See,
pinch me is about I'm waking up from a dream, pinch me, but also
yeah,
pasta, the
yeah.
ravioli pinch.
That's
In
what I thought. I was like, oh, she's got this. And I love that you have recipes at the end of the chapters, and the QR code is so cool. I was looking this morning. Yeah, like being able to go to see what was going on with the barn itself, the stone barn, and the renovations and whatever you wanted to direct us to. So I think that is innovative of what you've done for definitely people digital, but even a print book. People can actually go online and click through there. One time people thought QR codes were not going to do anything great, but look at it now.
Yeah, we got used to them in COVID for menus, and I still don't love that use of them. But my friends in Italy, when I was really close to getting it published, it was just about to come out, and I'm like, I have so many wonderful pictures of the people, of the food, of the scenes,
Mhm.
and you can't really, in a little book like this, do justice to them. They'd have to be black and white. And they said, why not a QR code? It's what they do in Italy. So there's 8 of them in there, and they sort of illustrate the particular chapter that you're reading. And I think it really does bring it to life. I'm glad you saw that. And so the recipe
Yeah,
QR codes sort of make it a little more interactive.
it's cool. I love that part. That's it's smart. But I want to talk about this whole idea where I think, we've lived all over in different countries, Mexico, South Africa, Kenya, England, the Isle of Man, well, not the Isle of Man, Guernsey, the Channel Islands, all over. And some of those trips were like, well, let's just do it. You just kind of somehow have this, and it is a pinch me because then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've made some commitment going, what the heck did I just do? The what was I thinking is you, and it is like that, but you've made some big shift in your life. And they say that we have certain amounts of, there's like, I think 9 or 7 and 9 major choices in our life where it's a, wow, we made a big shift. And I feel like this is one of those big shifts that you made, and just kind of, it was not flippant, but it was, oh man, let's just do it. So tell us about that decision, because to renovate an old house is one thing, but to do it in a new country, even whether you've traveled there or not, right, is still a whole other world.
Well, it is a whole other world, which is why we love it. And it was a big shift. But it wasn't totally out of the blue. It's something my husband and I actually talked about on our very first date, 15 years prior or 12 years prior about, yeah, maybe someday we'd go live in another country. I liked Europe. I spoke French. That would be fun. He says, yeah, but I like pizza. And I said, yeah, but I don't know
Oh,
Italian.
I'm with him.
Well, of course, who can argue Italy? But it was always just something that kind of a pipe dream that we would talk about and yeah, maybe someday think about. And I think everybody has that feeling. You go on vacation and you're having the best time and you're like, I could live here. I could picture it. But then you get back to your real life and it takes over.
Mhm.
So we sort of had that process, but it took over except for the fact that my heart was already lost to Monforte Alba. And I would think about it, picture it. My husband too, we talked about it. Well, Mom, well, should we go back? It was so amazing and so special. There are a lot of really pretty places and great places in the world, but this town, I think because of the people, were
Mm.
just set apart from the rest of the world. And so we said, okay, let's take this seriously. Let's go back again and really look at houses and spend some time. And within, I'd say, a day or two of our second trip, we knew this was a place for us. But where and how, who knew? So we kept looking and checking different houses. And the day before we left, our realtor, who was just about to throw in the towel on us, said, there's this one other place. I don't know if it's right. It's kind of tumbling down, but you might just take a look. We said, sure, why not? And so we went and looked at it. And just as I got out of the car, I was in love. I said, this is it. And my husband, who's actually normal and practical, said, well, we should really look inside first, Barbara. Are you sure? So he was looking around inside, falling in love with the inside. I was sitting out on the lawn, looking at the views, looking at this beautiful old
Mm.
structure, 300-year-old stone structure, rusted, falling down, but with some sense of character. And there's kind of a demure beauty about it. And I thought, boy, if you could clean that up and make it a stone home that was thriving, how gorgeous it would be. Well, he's inside doing the same thing. And inside, he's finding this cantina down below and these upstairs and downstairs and lots of room. There were mature trees, there were beautiful flowers, and the nicest neighbors on the planet were the ones selling it. They were right next to it. So as we fell in love with our neighbors and the town and everything, it was actually sensible at that point. You kind
Hmm.
of look back and go, what were we thinking? But only jokingly. Inside, this is a good thing to do. It was the best thing
Mm.
in our marriage, I think.
That's amazing because it's you're in another country and things work differently when you're renovating and there's permitting and all of that. So that could get tenacious. I don't know. Like I want to do this. No, I want to do that. So did you kind of have to really map it out and have some ways to work around all the language even to get things done, especially being and because it's not like you're like in a city where everything's you know, at a click, right?
Well, there was no Bed Bath and Beyond around the corner, that's for sure. So those questions were sort of, gosh, where do you buy towel bars? Where do you buy garbage cans? That kind of practicalities were interesting, but we took it slow and
Nice.
we took it a step at a time. To buy the property was not, I say it was for a song. It's not a song, but it's like a very nice car in America is what it
Mm,
cost. So we figured, well, what we're buying is of value. It's real estate. Worst comes to worst, we sell it, we move back, and we say that was a nice adventure. So we had an escape
mm,
always. And we met lovely people. Kim, my husband, knows about real estate development. So I was confident
oh,
with him
good.
that he would know, you know, what we need to do in terms of water and electricity. And I was in advertising forever. And so I'm used to creativity and design and living in
Mm-hmm.
people. So
That's
I felt,
perfect.
yeah, together we figured it out. But again, we took our time, we had a good team, and we went in with our eyes wide open, really,
Mm.
and took our time.
One thing I know too is that Italy is becoming an expat destination for Americans. I recently did an interview with a travel writer who went just outside Sicily and said there was properties that they were actually you could buy for like $1 to $10,000. Properties that were they were wanting people to invest in them because they're historic buildings so that they wouldn't be lost, you know? So had you seen any of that in your looking around and have you heard of any of that?
Certainly, we've read all the articles about the homes for $1 in these cute little towns. And I think it's a fabulous idea. They do it to preserve the buildings, they do it to boost their economy. A lot of towns become almost ghost towns. People grow up there,
Mm.
go to school in Milan or Rome, and want to stay in Milan or Rome or go to New York, or they want to move out. Where we live in Monforte Alba in the Piemonte, it's a thriving wine area. And so it's different in that the town is thriving. There's little kids, there's young parents, there's grandparents, there's, 4 and
Okay,
5
nice.
generations. So it isn't the sort of ghost town thing. So the homes aren't $1 or $10,000, but they're, by our standards, still super reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, down there in Puglia, way down south, there's some beautiful homes that I think are, you know, maybe in the 10,000 type ranges. And certainly there are little hill towns that are way out of the way, and they just want people coming and living there and
Mm.
needing goods and services and spending money and being part of their community. So yeah, there's some of those. This is a thriving community, but a little one. Our little town has
Mm.
300 people, 400 people. Monforte Alba has 2,000, which is still pretty small.
Yeah.
Like 20 fabulous restaurants. I mean, per capita, exquisite restaurants is insane.
Mm.
And great wine and all kinds of things that attract European tourists, not really American tourists too much yet. Um,
Oh.
Unfortunately, I mean, I had to write this book just because it was in me, and it was so many lovely stories to tell about the people. And I hope it doesn't bring, 30 people moving in next door. Love
Yeah.
it. I love the innocence and I love the authenticity of
Mm.
the area. It's wonderful. But sure, yeah, I think it's a destination people have always loved. And now with remote working, people are considering.
Hmm.
But I'm not the first person to discover Italy. I'm fully aware,
Sure.
but there aren't a lot of Americans where we live, and that's also really special.
Yeah, I mean, we've lived like that. I remember we lived out way out in the boonies for many, well, actually lived out in the bush for many years in Africa. And
Literally, the
there's
book.
this, yeah, literally, like I mean it.
I
Yeah.
know.
I
I know
could
South
really
Africa.
mean,
I love South Africa. Are you in
yeah.
Cape Town or
Uh,
Johannesburg?
Port Elizabeth was our main place with the magazine. And before that, we were in Kenya. And my mom went over when I was a little and, divorced my father and said, "That's it. I'm going halfway around the world." She got invited to work with a lady called Joy Adamson, who is known for rehabilitated lions and leopards and worked in conservation with her husband, George Adamson. And they were kind of split up, but Nancy, my mom, went and worked for her. And so I lived with two different tribes at a time because I couldn't be on the
Oh,
site
wow. Mhm.
because of the leopard. They were working with Penny the leopard at the time, but she would go in and she was someone who was trying to explain that you could communicate with animals and understand each other. And so when I say out in the bush, I mean, we really were out in the bush.
Wow,
Um,
I thought I
I,
was in the middle of nowhere. You really were. That's wonderful.
yeah, no, but I was raised that way a little bit. And then we've had other remote things, and we love it because you forget there's a sense that you kind of remember your senses of what you were born with. And I
Exactly.
sometimes feel like, I know you're in San Francisco, you also live, um, but I feel like cities and all of that, and I know you've traveled all over, with your advertising career, to all these amazing cities, and Cape Town is one of the best in the planet, my point of view. But um, when you're in these kind of smaller places and you get to know people, and there's a slowdown where politeness is a part of life and community is a part of life, but it's I don't know, you watch what the weather does it's like a slow, I know there's the slow food movement, I know what you're a big part of and love, and so do we, but there's slow living. Does
You're
that make
exactly,
sense?
you're what
Yeah.
it makes sense, and it's describing why we love where we are. I was
Yeah.
telling someone this morning on the phone that honestly, when we get there, we will have been here a few months because we bought a place here so that I'd be well situated to launch the book. And then we come back once a year and see the kids and doctors and dentists and all that.
Yeah.
But it takes us a week or two to sort of, oh, take a breath, slow down a little more. And then you find the days are just more peaceful. You hear the birds, you take a nap, you spend time on a really nice meal that you've cooked. Takes a few
Mm.
hours. It's kind of fun to do. You work in your vegetable garden. You plant a vegetable garden, which I haven't had since I was 20. You know, things
Yeah.
like that. It's a different life and it's a slow life that you can sort of appreciate. And with all the kind of nuttiness in the States right now and all the tension and anxiety and the fires and the war, all that, I'm really always happy to go to Italy and just live and be with my husband and be in a home that's giant because it was a barn for animals and people can come stay with us. It's comfortable and it's so much cheaper to live. The food
Mm.
at the markets are so much cheaper. Um, and you know, if I don't get a manicure for 4 months, it doesn't matter. It's a
No, because you would put your hand back in the dirt in the garden.
exactly, and who cares? And is it that important? Whereas in the city, okay, you have to buy a new blouse every few months and you have to there it's you're just living and it's a very I learned from the Italians how to do that. They're such great examples because they stop in the street and talk to you. How are you? What's up? What they're not, oh, I'm so busy, gotta run. They will take time to talk because that's what matters. They take time with
Yeah.
their family because that's what matters. They have their
Mm.
faith, they have their values, even if they're not necessarily, a lot of them are Catholic, not all of them are, but they have a sense of doing right by the earth, doing right by their neighbor. It's a really great, great lesson for me at this point in my life to really
Mm.
understand fully.
Yeah, it's like when people ask you how you are, they actually are asking you how you are.
No, and they stop, put their thing down. So, buongiorno, come stai? Tutto bene? And it's really real, and you feel family.
Mm.
People there are so dear. About once a week, some of them somebody shows up at our house with a present. Might be pasta, it might be something from the garden, it
Oh.
might be a wine that they found that they really liked. They just can't help themselves, and they're not trying to get, anything back. That's just who they are. And so they
Mm.
share, they embrace you, they welcome you, they help you. My gosh, we've had things happen, and they're there, right there. I fell and hit my head real badly at a restaurant, and they're right. Next thing I look, I'm in the emergency room. There are my neighbors helping and helping translate and um,
Wow.
all that kind of stuff. They're what we like to think we are, and maybe don't always take the time to be. And it really gives me pause. you know.
I think that, with your book, that it slows people down. Even when you're reading it, you want to go back and, like, when you talk, let's go back to the ravioli. You're just like, wait, I want that butter and that sage. Wait a minute. I'm going to reread that because just that makes me feel good. That, you feel good with that. And so in reading, so writing, I mean, did you ever think you would write a memoir?
I didn't even know it was a memoir until I talked to the publisher. Oh, I guess it is a memoir. But yeah, I was a writer my whole life. I was a writer, English major, and I always loved to write. It was my outlet. I just did. As a little kid, I thought it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Through high school and college. And then my job was in advertising as a writer, and I became a creative director. But and that was 36 years, 37 years. So I had started multiple screenplays on vacation, but then I'd have to go back to work, or, I'd start things.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've had literally years to think about it, write it, and complete something. And it's been real satisfying. And it takes a while once you've written it to then get it out. So it's a good thing I have
Mm.
time because I could not do this with with a job as well. But um, I wrote it because I just thought the stories were so lovely and the people were so lovely.
Mm-hmm.
It started as a blog in like
Mm-hmm.
2015 when people did blogs. And all my friends were like, whoa, so that's what you're doing over there. That's so interesting. And it was a way of being close to them and communicating with them. And I wanted them to understand why we love it there. We're not just off on some planet. It's really amazing experiences every day that we enjoy. And then after a year of that, I said, this really could or should be a book. So let me try and put it into book form. So I try and capture the moments in kind of a timeline of how because everyone that comes to the house looks at us. We're clearly not Italian, and we're in the middle of pretty much nowhere, like where you are right now. It's very similar to where you're standing. Miles, 2 hours from Milan, hour and a half from Torino, kind of in the northern part of Italy that people don't necessarily head for first.
Mm.
And so I just sort of told the story of how we stumbled upon it on our honeymoon, fell in love, came back and took it a step at a time. And, how we actually decided to sell everything in San Francisco, move there full time, which we did for a couple years. And then things happened where I had to come back for a year.
Mhm.
We rented. So there's been a lot of back and forth. But um, it's where they say you left your heart in San Francisco, which I have and always will. It will always be here, having pretty much grown up here. But it's also in Rodino and Monforte and the
Mm.
Piemonte. It,
That's
people there are friends and family at this point.
that's that's awesome. Yeah, and then the food. Let's talk about the food and the wine. Give us an overview of the wine because it sounds like the food it sound like there's this whole movement for the blue zone movement from the blue zones around the world of eating healthy, and the Mediterranean is very, and obviously Italy is part of that too. And so it seems like this is a region like that because this movement, it's like a nonprofit now in this country where like Scottsdale, Arizona is becoming a blue zone community. And it's about also taking time, not only having healthy ingredients in our food, right? Having time with our neighbors, with wine,
Every
eating
day.
that kind of slow down, meet your neighbors, have some wine together. It's not about drinking, the whole case, but if you want to, I mean, how many people you got over, but it's this slow down. And it seems to me that it feels like you're living in a blue zone where it's slow down, chat, companionship is part of, they were saying about longevity in life is joy
100%
with others, laughter, you
connection,
know.
daily
Mm-hmm.
connection, and purpose. You get out of bed because
Mm,
you have to work for a couple hours. You have to get
yeah.
down and you have to get the hazelnuts off the tree. And at 10:30, you're hot and you're tired, so you come back and have a cup of coffee, have a nice lunch, take a nap. But you've had 2, 3 hours of, up from 6 till 9 working. People in
Mm,
their 90s are up trucking around, and everybody does their own ironing, everybody does their own lawn mowing, or they don't have lawns, they have gardens. Why would you have a lawn? Well, grow something you can eat, such
mm,
simple values. But yes, part of that is connection. They go in every day. You come into the piazza and there are the men sitting together having their coffee, talking and talk. What are they talking about? I don't know. They talk for hours. And the women, are together and doing their thing. And there's this definitely connection. And they have their families. I mean, I like to think of it in my mind, we're living in a light blue zone. It's not officially a blue zone, but
right.
it has the Mediterranean diet. It is a wine region, and so that's really important. People talk about the wine, they talk
It
about
is.
the truffles, and yeah, it is important. And the hazel, I mean, South Africa has wonderful wines as well, I know.
Hmm.
So it is that kind of community that people work hard. I don't care if you're a millionaire with all your fancy wines at your house. You're in your jeans and your fleeces and mud on your
Hmm.
face in February digging out in the vines, and you're doing it all year. You don't put your feet up and have the wine people come. You do it. So they have
Mm,
purpose, they have family, they
that's
have
nice.
healthy diets from the ground. They go out. I mean, I find myself getting a little resentful when I go to Safeway here and I pay $2 and $3 for a packet of herbs when I go, because I like to throw lots of herbs in my food. In Italy, you go out and go, I think I'll have some sage and maybe I'll do a little thyme and a couple handfuls of basil. And you just bring it in, and that's just what you do every day. And that would have cost me $10 in America. So you're like, there's something natural and smart and satisfying, and it tastes better. We don't eat tomatoes in the winter because they don't taste good. And in the summer,
Yeah.
they're the best tomatoes you've ever had in your life. So you eat seasonally, you eat locally. I talk in the book about even when you go to the farmer's market and bring home produce that's setting out, to be sold, there's mud and dirt clinging to everything because that's what plants have before they go
Yeah.
through a big machinery and get sterilized and wrapped in plastic and all that. You buy them, you put them in a paper bag. You have to spend 2 or 3 times longer washing the dirt off, which is a small price to pay for food that was picked
Mm.
the day before. It really is delicious. So yes, it's a slower life, it's a connected life, and you interact at the farm. I love going to the farmer's market because you see everybody you know in town. I say
Oh,
it
that's cool.
a little bit of my small college that I went to a small university. You go into the piazza, you say hi to like 15 people, and go home and feel like, well, I connected. There's something
That's
magical.
nice.
It really is.
That it's a slow way of living. It's
Mm.
but connected, like you said, you're still working. It's not like, hey, I'm drinking wine all day, but you have your friends over, their neighbors, but what is the wine like? I mean, what
Okay, you want to
yeah,
talk about,
yeah. I
we
have to.
an entire podcast on that.
Okay.
Um,
I'll talk wine all day long.
we are about 20 feet outside of the Barolo region, that all the people around us are working on Barolo. And
Oh,
the
nice.
Barolo wine is made from Nebbiolo grapes. So the
Mm.
Nebbiolo grapes grow beautifully here. If you're not in the designated zone, you make Nebbiolo. If you're in the designated zone and you do it right and you hold it in wood long enough, it becomes a Barolo. And you can sell a Barolo for $100 or a Nebbiolo for 20. So people they love when they can make it a Barolo. For me, that's great. It's fine. I'm happy with a good Nebbiolo. My husband has planted 70 vines, so it's a very small
Oh,
vineyard of Barbera, which
oh, nice.
he names it Barbera di Barbara, which is the sweetest thing he's ever done for me. It's actually good wine. It's just on the hillside by our house, just like behind you, but maybe 12 rows, not very long. And it's delish because the people there help us make it and they know how to do it and they tell us what to do. And it's a full-time job, even those 70 plants. It's amazing. We
Yeah.
make 120 bottles. But so the region is famous for Barolo wine and for truffles in the fall after the wine is picked. Um, I mean, after the grapes are picked and the wine is in the barrel, it's truffle season. So people come to Alba, which is also nearby, for the truffle fair.
Oh,
Those are locally found by dogs, not pigs,
yeah.
truffle hunters. They go into the woods foraging and come back when they're lucky with truffles that sell for just pretty much the same price as heroin, as I can tell.
Wow. I know, because the whole truffle, it's a big deal. I mean, it
It is
is.
a big deal. It's expensive and it's delicious. And I have maybe one or two, three bites of his pasta every truffle season, and that's enough. It holds me. It's delicious, but it's a powerful thing. You could not eat it every day, but it's like caviar. It's really
Yeah.
special.
And like saffron, you don't want to go too far with saffron, you know?
Saffron is grown there too,
Oh,
because
really?
um, risotto Milanese is that beautiful golden saffron color.
Oh,
And it is, my friend grows saffron and sells it, sort of locally at the farmers markets. And she likes to say, which I think is very poetic, she's from Rome, so she's quite sophisticated, but she says, I think that they're not stamen, they're stigmas, I think, um, all summer long, capture the sun. And then I take them out and put them in a jar. And then in the winter, when it's cold and you're making something, you put it into the dish and the dish is full of sunshine again. And I just think that's
oh,
a nice way to think of it. These little tiny threads of saffron colored energy and life and this kind of earthy flavor just come to life again in the winter when you need it most. I mean, how beautiful is that? So
that is gorgeous. That is gorgeous. I think, this is the way to live. We're so
I think
rushed. We don't eat, we just throw it in there. It's like everything is
exactly.
preserved. Everything has to be packaged for us, chopped, done. We have to have baby carrots that are not baby carrots that are washed and packaged for us. Our bags of salad have to be done for us. And honestly, I thanks for the convenience. I do use that. I'm not going to lie, just with our life. But when you can just slow down, it sounds very similar. When we lived in Mexico, it was south of Ensenada, in Punta Banda, which is just, it was an expat community,
Mhm.
but they also are the growers of all these amazing baby vegetables. They get harvested as their babies and then sent over
Right.
the border. And so we lived, and so when you went out to have, dinner, you were getting freshly picked from the farm baby vegetables and just they would, with us, we were starting our magazine at that point and thinking we could run it from Mexico, which it didn't work. It's not like moving to Italy a little bit, just a little different. But that feeling of being able to go in the rest, they would show you, they would tell you what they're doing and very proud of it. They
Yes.
wanted you to understand what they were doing and creating. Because some of those dishes like moles and things like that are like in I'm
I
still chasing this one. And
I
I've
once took
never
a
had it
year,
again.
once literally took a year, sorry to interrupt you. I took a
No.
year off of work once to make mole, to learn a good mole sauce. I was also trying to get pregnant and didn't, but I did come up with a great mole recipe, but it took a year, literally, to buy the seeds, to grind them, to try different things. It's a very complex dish, and they're to be congratulated in those kinds of dishes. And those are not convenient, but going out to the garden and grabbing handfuls of what you can find, throwing it into some pasta, or making pasta, you grab flour and water, you cook it, you grind it, you have those things are pretty convenient and pretty practical when you live in Italy, which we don't have
Wow.
here.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. It's that kind of lifestyle where that's how it's done. And you
Yeah.
find yourself slowing and slowing. And then when you go back to the States, your body goes into this sense of shock. You
Yes.
know, I want to ask you about shopping there because obviously you're doing a lot of, getting from the garden, right? When we first came to this country, my mom and I went to the grocery store. And now South Africa, as you know, is very modern and everything, but still, this is different. And we went and we're looking at all these choices going, this is weird. Like to me, conspiracy mind went, why are there 10 butters? Butter is butter. What's wrong with this butter? Right?
Yeah.
I didn't understand. We ended up having a shopping cart loaded to the brim and then realized we have no idea what we're doing. And we walked out of the store. We
In
were so
tears.
overwhelmed. And so a couple years ago, my best friend from high school came over and I took her to Walmart just to see what she would do. We had this Airbnb thing and we were like gonna all cook, and I took her. I swear I didn't tell her this story about the butter. We ended up in the grocery side, but she's looking at me going, "What the heck, man? We have some of these, and she lives in England now, but she's like, they've got stuff like that, but still." She goes to the butter aisle because we needed butter. We always need butter. And she turns to me and Lisa, she goes, Lisa, why are there so many butters? I don't understand why we have what's wrong with this? And I lost it because she did exactly what I did about the butter because to
Right.
me butter is butter, but apparently it's not. So why do we have 20,000 of them? Now you're in the advertising world, so I know you you know what I mean. But it
I believe in brands. I do believe in brands, but when it comes to food, if
yeah,
it's local and grown, although the little ladies in front of me at the farmers markets will come up to the same guy every Tuesday, the same young guy, who's got his vegetable garden or vegetable produce in front of him. And she'll argue with him about the artichokes for 15 minutes. Where do they from? Are you sure? And there's that back and forth because she wants this artichoke, not that artichoke, and not, and she'll do the same with the bok choy or the greens. They
that's
care
cool.
about every tiny ingredient and they know about it and they do see the difference. There's a huge difference.
Yeah. Now when you come back to the States, do you go into like a shock going into Safeway, not just on the herbs, but just that kind of change? Are you good at it? Like when
Yeah, I mean, I confess, when I see the Skippy peanut butter, I'm happy.
yeah, we all want that.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
like a nice jar of Skippy peanut butter, and their peanut butter is not the best. But it's a little hard to see, four tomatoes wrapped in plastic in a styrofoam thing, and you don't know where they were grown, if they're any good, and it's January, and they're not going to be local and fresh. And so some of that, I grew up with it, so I'm not shocked by it. But I do find, like the first few weeks I was here, I just never really had a very good salad. I bring my own salt when I go to our kids' house, or we bring it from Italy, although you can buy it here now. And I bring my own vinegar, and I'm really fussy about the olive oil. So at least I can have a really good dressing every night. I have very simple dressings. And we have other things. We have fabulous crab in San Francisco. We have avocados all year round, and our
Oh, God, that's crucial.
the best, the best. And
Mm,
our bananas are always good. The bananas in Italy aren't so good
mm.
because there aren't banana trees there.
Yeah.
And so they don't put any energy into that. And they don't have chicken there much. They have the Polleria where you can go and buy chicken. And they're more and more starting to have the rotisserie chicken in the grocery
Mm,
store, supermarkets. And even there's a truck in the farmer's market that does the rotisserie chicken, and they have French fries, and that has a very long line. I've noticed every morning people like to get their French fries and their roast chicken there. But mostly, yeah, I miss the produce, and produce in California is pretty good, as you know.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it's It doesn't have that intense flavor. I mean, there's nothing
Mm,
like the produce in the summer and spring in Europe.
mm.
It's literally from the person down the street. What's also interesting, I sort of get on a high horse when I talk about the meat there because they have veal. And everywhere else in the world, people say, oh, veal's terrible. It's baby cows that are put in shoe boxes, and the meat's really, it's been growing up dark in the shade and stuff. And here it's the opposite. They have these big, giant, beautiful animals that look like Popeye. They're very sinewy and very strong, but they have very, very interesting muscle fibers that make the meat very tender and very
Oh,
delicious. So it's like red meat in that it's got the flavor and the complete amino acids. So it's nourishing. It's good
mhm.
for your iron and all that. But it's very, very tender, and they're slaughtered at 2 years, but it's been 2 really happy years. It isn't like they're tortured in any way. And the meat is very good for you. It's as healthy as chicken.
Mm.
It's as tender as the best steak you've ever had and a beautiful flavor. So you see veal everywhere. And what's nice is it allows these small families to maintain their farms because
Okay.
the cows grow, I mean, walk around in the garden. They send them to the butcher after a few years, they raise more. It's just how they make their living. And when you go to the macelleria or the butcher, they they have a sign that says this is the animal, it's where he lived, and it's usually a few blocks away, and when he was born, and it's almost like I'm your waiter, Bill, I'll be your waiter tonight. It's almost like this is today's or this month's
That's amazing.
animal, and the meat is so delicious. I mean, it's extraordinary. So even people that don't normally eat veal, if they eat meat at all, I say please be open to their veal because it tastes like just the best meat you've ever had. It's really, really good. So, but it's
Mm.
also a slow food movement, which started in Bra, which is 20 minutes from our house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, that is what they're trying to preserve, that life where
Mm.
you don't have these big giant companies overtaking the farmlands and manufacturing and shipping them all over the country. They're all local. You're not spending time and energy moving them from place to place.
And when we look at climate change issues right now, this is one of those ways to solve it. And um, yeah, I could start on the whole factory farming that we have here. I mean, I
Yeah,
drive the country full time, and I've been, how those cows are transported and how the if you've ever been behind a poultry truck, it you won't
pretty.
want to, it is not nice, and you will go vegetarian for a while, is all
Right.
I'm saying. Those kinds of things. And if you want to see the animals happy, and from what I have read and through interviews and authors and scientists and everything, the meat will always taste better if the animal had a happy life. And I have a friend who is a cattle rancher in Texas,
Hmm.
old ranch, and she refuses to do the ATVs to herd the cattle. They go on horseback. The cattle know who each other, they have,
Hmm.
I mean, it's just this connection to the animal versus, this, yeah, the factory farmed food is not good for us, and it's
It,
not nice for the animals. And
no,
they are so intense because it's cruel.
it's about respect for them and their
Hmm.
lives, and they give back, and they're all, at some point, we all die. And I think if you are an animal and when you die,
Hmm.
you're appreciated for the life you live and for what you then leave behind. You've, made people healthy and happy. I do think it makes sense. Obviously, they don't go to school and read those things, but they have to feel it. They have to feel that they're part of it.
Hmm.
And that respect at every turn, to the olive oil, to the meat, to the
Yeah.
cheese. Oh my God, the cheeses. They have
Oh
so
boy.
cheeses, and it's the milk. We were at a restaurant, it was a cooking school that we did for a couple hours, and then we got to eat what we made. We made plain, the pinch ravioli, and then we
Yeah.
made a couple other dishes. And then for dessert, the chef and owner was so proud of it to say, our ice cream is made from the milk of cows that live at 8,000 feet because it's better. And I have to tell you, it is the best ice cream I've ever had in my life. Why? I don't know, but there's something about at 8,000 feet, they have purer diets or different grasses or more oxygen, whatever it was. It makes a difference. Tiny things. It's
Wow.
like butter.
Yeah, when we left the States when I was, 1.5, I was allergic to cow's milk. So Nancy had goats. So I had goat's milk as a kid and cheese, goat cheese, all of that.
Love
When
goat
we
cheese.
landed in Kenya, I could eat anything that I had allergies to drink. I mean, I was fine. All these allergies and things that I had as a young kid in LA, go over there, everything went away. I could breathe. I was having breathing issues, well, smog in LA and everything. But everything changed because it was all about like actual, and we all had avocado trees and mangoes in our backyard.
The
Like,
best.
oh,
No, people who are gluten intolerant, and I'm aware of gluten. I'm not intolerant, but I had times in my life when I thought I was into also
mm-hmm.
lactose too. I'm careful of both. I pay no attention in Italy. I eat and everything I want, and I'm fine. And people who have gluten issues come here. They can eat the bread, they can eat the pasta, and they go, "Wow, it's delicious," because they don't grow it to be able to withstand all kinds of diseases. They don't cover it with pesticides and make it so tough that you can't digest it. It's the kind of bread our folks had growing up, and the people, for years that didn't
Yeah.
always have these gluten issues. It's just a natural way, slow way to grow food. Is it the most economic? Maybe not if you're a giant company, but it's the best for you, and it's a good way to live if you live there and you're growing, the wheat locally.
Well, the whole thing with factory farming and factory, farms, whether it's animals or plants, was to make it more economical for people. Well, it
Yeah.
turned out to be more not economical for our health, when you think about it that way. So I love this. I am so excited for you. Your book is out. You're going to be doing book signings everywhere. So people should go to your
Yeah.
websites. I want to
Yeah.
promote your website, barbaraboyleauthor.com, and that is linked in the episode notes. But I think this would, I mean, are you going to do like book clubs and things like that too? Because it would be
Yeah,
awesome.
anyone that has a book club, I could certainly zoom in on, and a lot of my friends have had me come by already and talk about it. But I'd love people to go to my Substack because that's a
Mm,
new platform where it's for writers who want to talk directly to their readers, and you can subscribe to it, and you're not going to get Facebook ads. They're not a part of it. It's a very intimate platform. So I'm also on Substack, which is in the last year or two new, and it's called Letters from a 300-Year-Old Italian Farmhouse. So it's that same Italian farmhouse. But if you wanted it, it's hopefully you could link boyleb.substack.com. And that you subscribe, and
hmm.
every week or two I write another post, and you can follow me
Awesome.
for the future, which is kind of fun.
That's awesome. It has been a true pleasure having you on the show. I can't wait to finish the book, but I'm taking it slow. How about that? It's
As it should be. It took me 5 years to get through it. You can certainly, take your time.
with
And
wine. It's a
yeah, a
good,
little glass of wine helps you read it. It's been so nice to talk to you. I feel like we have so much in common with your
for
values,
sure.
travels, and I wish you the best, you and your mom.
Thank you. You too. Enjoy your time in San Francisco and then enjoy your time going back home.
Boy, I'm counting the days, but thank you. So nice
Thank you
meeting
for
you.
listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.